My grandfather always had this saying, if you think you can, you probably can.
Right.
If you think you can't, you probably
probably
can't.
can't. Yeah, right.
But guess what? Either way you right, man.
Right.
So it's just like, people just, with Instagram and social media, people look at that instant gratification. A lot of people, oh man, hey man, like, I can't believe you're doing all them houses and all this blah, blah, blah. But your ass knew what I was doing.
Well,
12, 15.
but
Bro, it was work. Nigga, it was
That's what I'm
hard.
saying. Perception.
It's a grind.
Perception is everything, right? All right. Another episode of Bootstrapped Millionaire. And I'm telling you, I'm excited about this one because we got the one and only Mr. Gene Johnson, the construction king, or may I say the construction king.
Yeah, Kang. Yeah, Kang.
Right, the construction king.
Yes, sir.
So listen, man, I'm happy to have you on Bootstrapped Millionaire, man. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, appreciate you having me, man. It's an honor for me to be here. And, man, I think so much of you, man. So it's just an honor for me to be here, just to have a dope conversation with you.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, this I'm really excited about this conversation because obviously real estate is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I know it is to you as well. And for people to be able to learn more about real estate, I mean, you're the only person I would have ever thought about, talking about the subject of real estate. And we're going to dive real deep into a lot of the things, all things real estate. So I think this is going to be a great episode for people to learn, people to be entertained, and to be able to get some real insights on things that they probably didn't know about.
Absolutely, man. Let's get into it.
So let's first start off, Gene, for those who probably don't know you. I know you big on social media, so a lot of people know of you. But for those people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about who Gene Johnson is.
First off, man, I'm a father, 4 girls.
Four.
Ages from 5 to 27. I've been in Atlanta. I moved up here in 2006, man, with just a dream. With just a dream. At the time, I was making $13 an hour. I was reading meters, and I just wanted more opportunity for myself, man. And so got up here, bought a house. But back then, anybody could have bought a house. All you needed was a social security number and a heartbeat. They was giving out loans. So bought a house, trying to, better myself. To make a long story short, man, within a few months of buying that house, the refrigerator went out, the AC went out. And when you live in paycheck to paycheck making $13 an hour, you're already behind the 8 ball. So I started looking for other opportunities because I knew, like, man, I just got tired of living paycheck to paycheck. So I was up late one night, man, and you remember Carlton Sheets. And it's funny about when you going through something in your life, you can't sleep at night.
That's right.
So it's 2 o'clock in the morning, man. I saw this Carlton Sheets commercial. He started talking about real estate, and that really piqued my interest. And it took me, some time to kind of get into it. I ordered the course, but when you order that course, it's still so much stuff you have to learn.
That course is the one in the box, too.
Yeah,
right?
the course in the box. Course in the box. So they make it look easy, but it's really a lot harder than what it seemed to be. So to make a long story short, after about 2 years of trying to figure out how to really get into real estate, trying to wholesale some property, that didn't really work out. I ended up getting my real estate license. And I was supposed to go work for this wholesale company. And in 2008, they went out of business. I got my license in December of 2007. They went out of business. My wife was like, well, you got your license and you want to be in real estate. Why don't you become an agent? And so, at the time, I didn't know anything about becoming an agent or what an agent, did or how much they made. So I ended up going to a career night at Keller Williams. And what I remember about that career night was how much you can make from being a realtor. And I looked at how much I was making. She was like, if you sell a house at $300,000, you're typically going to get 3%. So I could do math. I'm like, 300,000, 3%. Oh man, that's more money than I make in 3 months.
Right.
So I was sold, and then I went all in for real estate, man. So I ended up getting a night job because I couldn't do real estate in the daytime. So I already had my CDL license because I was meter reading. I was working for the power company. I got a night job driving truck with JB Hunt locally. So I was doing real estate in the daytime and working at night driving truck. But even that was a grind, man, because I would go in at 6 or 7 at night and I would work till 5, 6 in the morning, come home, sleep for a couple hours, and then try to practice real estate in the daytime. And this went on from January, end of January 2008 to about August. I was going to the CE classes. I was going to all the training. And it took me about 7 or 8 months to sell my first house. I sold my first house. I remember like it was yesterday. I sold my first house. Even after all the broker fees, my check was like $3,600.
Right.
The next Monday, I put my notice in, man. And I went all in real estate.
Wow.
Yep, went all in.
Now, were you married? You were married during this time too, right?
Yep, married at the time, going through a lot. Like, we were facing foreclosure,
Yeah.
first kid on the way. So I didn't have no other options, man. It was like either I was going to do this and make it happen, because I know I couldn't live off the $13 an hour
Correct.
job. So I didn't have any other choices. It was like, make this happen by any means necessary.
Wow. And sometimes when you hear stories like this, sometimes it's good to be in situations like that where you don't have many choices, right? Because you knew that you didn't have a plan B. Your plan A was your plan B, and you had to make it work.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And so obviously you getting into real estate as an agent. How long did you stay as an agent, as a real estate agent?
I was an agent for several years. So I got licensed in the 07. Then I ended up getting my broker license a few years later. By 2010, within a couple years of being an agent, I became a top agent. Within 3 years, I had the #1 team at Keller Williams Atlanta Partners. So I had the #1 team for like 4 years in a row. When the market tanked, it was almost like a blessing for me. And the reason I say that is because when the market tanked, a lot of agents got out of real estate. And even at the time when I was getting into it, I had family members saying, man, you gonna leave your job to go get in real estate? Everybody's getting out. But sometimes, man, you can't listen to the outside noise. You have to have tunnel vision on what you want to accomplish.
Right. Yeah.
So I was looking at the big picture, the big goal. Yeah, I knew it was gonna be a lot of work, but I knew that I can get there. And selling that first house showed me that I could do it. It was about repetition and doing it again. So when I said it was a blessing, the other blessing was it brought a lot of investors to Atlanta. Because you probably remember when they used to have those big Hudson and Marshall auctions.
Yep, I remember.
And you had all these houses selling for $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000. I went to they used to have an auction almost every single week. I was going to the auction, passing out business cards. Man, I must have passed out, I kid you not, 2,000 or 3,000 cards at the auction. And I was working on my pitch. I was trying to meet investors, but because I was so new and I didn't really have the language down, a lot of people take your card and nobody never really called you back. I met this one guy, man, at the auction, and it changed my life. This dude, we're still friends today. He's probably bought over 300-400 houses from me, in my time in real estate. So I met that one investor and I really rode that roller coaster. This dude was buying 10, 15 houses a month as his agent. But the other blessing was, even though he had money, he was kind of new to real estate. So he was like, I want to find these rental properties. What are good areas? I went to work researching the areas. Hey man, you can get these properties for this, you can get these properties for this. So it really honed my skills. And he was like, well, I don't know how to renovate them. I was like, hey, I'll figure it out. So I was a one-stop shop. I would find the properties, I would renovate them, and I was leasing them out. He was like, man, how am I going to rent them out? I'll figure it out. So I was a one-stop shop for this guy.
So you didn't know how to renovate houses at the time. You took the initiative to learn how to do it.
I took the initiative to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And we made a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
But I was open and honest with him. I was like, listen, if you buy these houses, I help you figure out how to renovate them. I would go find the people. We'll figure out the budgets. And that's what I did, man. I started going to Home Depot. I started looking at what carpet cost. I would call around and get quotes. I would call around and get quotes on roofs. So I would get multiple quotes on everything. And we tried to find the best people, the best quotes. Sometimes we went too cheap, where we would go to Home Depot and find somebody that said they can do everything for a really good price and end up taking some losses. But I was in the weeds learning. So the blessing for me was I got a chance to learn on somebody else's dime. But the blessing, even really for him, was he had a young, hungry agent that was willing to go above and beyond where no other agent was going to do that.
Right.
And I wasn't even like with the rehabs, he wasn't even really paying me nothing. It was like I was doing it for just one fee. Later on, I started charging fees, but them first 7 or 8, 10 properties, I was doing the rehab for free.
Right.
I was renting them for free. But I told him that was my value proposition.
Yes.
Let me learn. I'll do it for free for you.
Yeah.
Now, once I honed my skills, obviously some fees came in. But back then, when I say I was selling 10, 15 houses a month, them prices were real low.
Yes.
So, you selling a $30,000 house, they wouldn't even giving 3%. They was doing like a flat $1,000, a flat $1,500 fee. So I would sell a lot of houses, and on paper it would look like oh man, you sold 15 houses, but when you got $15,000 because every house is a flat fee, then you got a broker take off from that. The take home was still decent, but it wasn't like I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was still making 7-10 grand a month. But it was good money for me, and it allowed me to actually learn and grow. So I say it was a blessing in disguise.
Well, I think that's where the value came in, is because you were learning and growing at the same time. And I think that's something that a lot of people, I think, miss in the day's culture. There are a lot of people that just want to come out and start making the money without going through what it takes, right? You were offering him value by doing all these different things, even though you didn't necessarily have the experience, but you was offering him value in doing it for free. And eventually that came back, right? You planted the seed and it came back, later on. Maybe it took you a while for you to start making the money from it, but eventually you did make money from it.
Yep, absolutely. And you're right. I think that's one of the missing qualities that a lot of people don't realize. You have to be able to provide value to that person or to that industry to get it back, especially when you're coming out the gate with no experience, man. Because I come from an era where, I was real blessed because I had, my dad. I knew 4 sets of grandparents. So on my mom's side, I knew, great grandparents and their parents. And on my dad's side, so at one point in time, I had 6 grandmothers and 4 grandfathers. I had a bunch of uncles. So we grew up old school. And what we were taught was when you do something, you do it with everything that you got. Correct. I don't care if you're sweeping the floor. Like anything you do, you try to do it at the best of your abilities, and you always over deliver.
That's right.
And if you can take those same concepts and principles when you do stuff, then you're going to receive what you deserve, because somebody's going to recognize that, and that's going to come back to you tenfold.
That's exactly right. Yeah, great. Well, listen, let's jump into some of these real estate related questions, and I telling you, like I said, you're the best person that I could have thought of when we talk about real estate. Because some of these questions, man, we're going to dive into a lot of things of what's happening in the real estate market and all that type of stuff. But the first question I want to ask you is regarding the interest rates, right? We all know the interest rates are at an all-time high, right? Now you and I probably remember back in the day when interest rates were around this, 7, 8%, but people got so accustomed to the 2 and 3% interest rates. So a lot of people think it's at an all-time high. Some people even perceive that inventory is low. With that being said, though, do you think that real estate is still a good investment?
Real estate has always been a good investment, and it would continue to be a good investment. I got a partner, KP, he said this all the time. The reason I love real estate is because my money has an address. I can go touch it. I can feel it. I'm not a big stock guy. I got a couple stocks. I will not sit up here and say I'm very versed in stocks because I'm not.
Me neither.
I will say I lost $200,000 in crypto. That's a story for another day.
Right.
But real estate is one of them things where there's always going to be a demand for housing. You either going to pay for housing that you own,
Yes.
or you're going to pay a landlord, mortgage down. So real estate has always been a good investment.
Right.
And I would challenge anybody to do this. No matter where you're at, go look at what were home prices 10 years ago.
Correct.
What were home prices 20 years ago? What were home prices 30 years ago? When I moved to Atlanta, and one of the reasons I moved to Atlanta was because the cost of living was so cheap. In 2006, we paid $150,000 for a 3,200 square foot home that was 5 bedrooms.
Right.
That same house is worth $450,000, $500 right now. We could have rented that same house for about $1,000. You're gonna pay $4,000 right now.
Yes.
So it's always gonna go up because of inflation and population. It was 4.5 million people in 2006. It's probably 6 million plus. And I was telling people several years ago, listen, if y'all don't buy a house now, Atlanta gonna fuck around and be like New York,
Yes.
Miami, and LA. Because when you go to New York and Miami and LA and some of these other major metropolitan cities, look at what home prices are.
That's right.
There. Look what rents are.
Yeah.
In Atlanta is like kind of the Mecca of the South. So it's just inevitable that it's gonna eventually get there. It's already almost there.
It's almost there. Yeah. Yeah. Prices have skyrocketed, and with the World Cup and all that type of stuff coming, trust me, it will get there. Yeah, it will get there.
If you ain't got nothing in Atlanta now, you're gonna be living in Griffin or
Way
Powder
out.
Springs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Kennesaw.
And that ain't the suburbs.
Yeah, that ain't the suburb. Right. Hey, if you living in Dalton, talking about you living in Atlanta. No, that's Dalton.
So now, with that being said, though, where do you think the market is headed, right? I mean, do you think some people think that the market is headed for a correction, right? A lot of people think, well, prices are going to start falling back, right? Like you hear people say, well, I'm going to sit on the sideline because prices are going to start falling back, right? Do you think there will be a correction, or do you think the prices will continue to rise?
I think the prices are going to continue to rise.
Yeah.
It has to be something catastrophic for them to just drop.
Right.
Like it has to be really high employment rate. Like right now, the last time I checked, like there's still a lot of jobs in the market. The unemployment rate has been relatively low. Now, I can't say that they're really good paying jobs, but still, when you look at the overall job rate, the job growth, we've had job growth. So there's not like when we had the crash, unemployment rate was like 8-9%. It was like a lot of unemployed people.
Yeah, there was.
So the jobs are still really low. The other thing is that the inventory. I was reading a report that said that we're about 8 to 9 million shortage in inventory. A couple years ago, it was like 4 to 5 million home shortage. Now it's like 9 million home shortage. But I was looking at other data. We've built, think about this, like just from a common sense standpoint, the population has been growing over the last 10 years a lot. So we have way more people than we did 10 or 15 years ago. We've built significantly less homes in the last 10 years than we've have in the prior 10 years. So in the 90s, in the 2000s, we've built way more houses in those 2 decades than we've built during the last 10 years. So you're building less houses, but the population is growing. Of course there's going to be a shortage.
Right.
And if we're at 8 to 9 million home shortage, there's no way that shortage is going to be made up anytime soon.
No.
So when you got a low shortage, but you still have a high demand, it don't really matter where rates are, prices are going to remain relatively high. And I guarantee you, this is an election year. At some point this year, there's been every indication that rates potentially might come down.
Right.
If they lowered the rate just a little bit, think about what's going to happen. There's a lot of pent up demand on the sidelines waiting to buy a house. When that demand hits the market, price is going to go back up. So I really
it's
think
just going to keep
it's
pushing
gonna
the
keep
prices.
pushing.
Yeah. So you're saying even if the interest rates come down, the prices of homes is going to keep going up because of the demand. That's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Demand.
And even though the interest rates will be lower, if the price of the home going up, you still your mortgage payment is still going to be higher.
Yep. I think the best time to buy a house is when rates are actually higher.
I agree.
Because now
I
you
agree.
look at the MLS, you might have houses sit on the market 90 days, 120 days. There begins to be some motivation to those
Yes.
sellers, because you might have somebody that has a job transfer that really has to sell that house. You might have an investor that has a hard money loan that need to get out that loan, that's willing to take a haircut on it to get out that house to move on to something else. You know, it's just the nature of the beast.
Yes.
You know, I've been pretty fortunate for the most part. I still have 2 houses that I ain't been able to sell. You know, I got a house. Actually, both of them are in Atlanta. You know, I'm gonna ride it out because I understand it's the nature of the beast. The fortunate side is I've had 8 or 9 houses that sold like this. But when you're buying and building multiple houses, it's always gonna be 1 or 2. So if I win on 8 of them and take some haircuts and take some losses on 2 of them, it is what it is. At the end of the day, collectively, I still won. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But right now, when you got houses sitting, now is the best time to now is the best time to negotiate, because one, you can actually buy down your rate and get kind of creative with your terms. You know, you've probably heard this phrase quite a bit. You date the rate and marry the house.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because what happens, like if you bought a house today and it's listed for, let's just say 600,000. Let's say you were able to negotiate it down to even 550,000 and get the seller to pay some closing costs. You know, that could be a win for you. So now you've actually bought the house a little bit below market value. Yes, the rate is higher and your payment can be maybe a little bit higher. But what happens if they lower the rate now and the next year it comes down even more? Now the prices are going to go up because of the demand. Now that 550 house that probably appraised for 600, but you got it for 550, it might be 625.
Yeah.
You know, it might fuck around and get to 650 in the next couple years. Now you got 100K in equity in your house. Then you go back and refinance that, and then you bring that mortgage payment down.
Yeah, that's right.
So you just gotta learn how to play the game.
Yeah.
It's never a bad time to buy a house if you understand how to play the game.
I agree.
The problem is most people don't understand how to play the game.
Yeah, and I was, when we talk about the prices too, one of the things I realized, when you see FHA raise their loan limits, right? I think they just recently raised it to about, here in the Atlanta area, I think it's like 700,000, right? Where you could, or just under 700,000, where you can actually buy a home with 3% down. And when FHA raises their limits, they're never raising. You never see the government bring the FHA limits down, right? So when the government moves it up like that, then that tells me that the prices will never come back down again, because the government is not going to go back and retract and bring their loan limits down. So
They not, man. It's just like everything else. It's just like gas. Once they get you used to paying that $3.50, $4, it ain't gonna never go back to no dollar.
Right.
But when it go back to, $2.25, $2.75 a gallon, you're gonna feel like you're getting a discount.
Yeah.
It ain't going back down.
No.
House is not going back down.
Right. Now, with that being said, though, do you think that home ownership is still a viable option for middle income families? Because I mean, we were talking off camera. We were talking about how with one report that just came out saying that for a person to buy a $400,000 house, they have to be making about $150,000, right? So as these prices continue to go up, do you think that home ownership is even a viable option for most middle class families?
I think it's situational. Anybody looking to buy a house that can afford a house definitely should buy a house.
Yes.
But it's situational. Sometimes it might be a situation where you may not necessarily be able to buy where you live, but if you can buy somewhere else and turn it into an investment property, then that could be a good situation for you. because owning a house or owning land is still one of the best investments in my opinion. So it's just going to be situational.
So
Like,
regardless of the fact that so you're saying regardless, you should still want to own real estate, whether it's the home that you live in or whether it's investment property.
absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing that I do, man, I pay attention to a lot of stuff. And before 2008, these large hedge funds, they were not buying single family homes.
That's true.
Now you got imitation homes, you got all these major companies. And I know a few people that have worked with these hedge funds. I forgot how many thousands of homes they own, but they own a lot of homes. And it's so many different reports out there, so it's hard to trust, what's real data, what's not. But it was a report that said that 23% of all homes in the metro Atlanta area were purchased by these hedge funds.
Right.
And I saw another report that said by 2050, over 50% of the single family homes are going to be owned by large corporations. What do you think is going to happen when we get to the point where 50% of these homes are owned by large corporations? You think they're going to let these home prices come down?
No.
Hell no.
No, hell no.
It's like, it's real life monopoly.
Monopoly, yeah.
They're not letting it go down.
And one of the things that I was telling someone about to that point about these hedge funds, and I often thought, I was like, why are these hedge funds going and buying single family homes, right? Typically hedge funds are in commercial and things of that nature, right? And it makes me wonder whether or not they are parking their money in real estate because something is getting ready to happen to the dollar. Because you think about it, right? I mean, these hedge funds would put their money in companies and paper assets and things of that nature. But now they are parking their money, even to the point where many of them are overpaying for homes. I even had reports where they would buy homes and just board them up and don't do anything with the homes, just board them up and just hold them. So it makes me wonder why, what's your thoughts? Do you think that there could be something happening with the US dollar?
It could be, man. I'm not an economist, so it could be. But it goes back to my earlier point. Their money has an address.
Their money has an address, yes.
Their money has an address.
Yeah.
One thing about real estate that I love, man, and again, I don't know a lot about stocks, but if you have a house, you actually can create multiple exit strategies or multiple streams of income. One, you can rent it out the traditional way and have somebody just pay that rent every month. Another option is you can pad split it. You can rent out each room individually. You can Airbnb it. You can have it as an event space. You might even have a property you can set up a studio in it where it's a content house.
Yeah.
Like you can really get creative and do some cool stuff to create multiple streams and different streams of income just from owning a house, or it could be property. I have a friend that owns a lot of land in South Georgia, and he uses it for hunting. So you can pay a fee and hunt on the land. Certain times of the year you can go rent trails and ride your four-wheeler. So you can get creative and do a lot of stuff. I don't know how creative you can get with a stock. Like you got to stop. Like, and if it's going down, what can you do? Like,
not
what
a
can
damn
you do
thing.
So with
Not
real
a
estate,
damn
you
thing.
can kind of get creative, man. And that's why I like real estate.
Yeah, I don't like stocks neither. I'm like you. I lost a lot of money back in the day with it. It just didn't. It don't make. To me, stocks are just gambling, right? You just gambling. You're hoping that this stock goes up, and then someone is actually manipulating the game, right? Whereas with real estate, you can take calculated risk. You know what the asset is. It's tangible and things of that nature. The unfortunate thing is, and my question would be to you is, why do you think that we as African Americans that we're just now learning about the whole game of real estate? Because I mean, it's been we all knew for years that most of your billionaires and millionaires have all owned real estate, but why wasn't it it's almost like now it's becoming popular within our communities, where it hasn't before. Why do you think that it was just something that was just not prevalent for us?
It boils down to education. That's what it boils down to. Because even when I got started, like I said earlier, I had no clue about real estate. Like when I was getting my house, the guy was like, "You got to put up earnest money." I'm like, "What's earnest money?" He was like, "You got to send $1,000." I'm like, "Am I gonna get this $1,000 back?" So I didn't know nothing about no earnest money. So it just boils down to education.
Right.
You know, I couldn't even sleep at night. I'm like, man, I gave him $1,000. I don't even own the house. So it's just education, man.
You
And
thought the money was gone.
I
Huh?
thought it was gone. I
Right.
thought he was, trying to get me for
And
1,000.
so it's so true because I remember I used to own some land in the west end of Atlanta. Now you know what the west end of Atlanta is doing right now.
Yeah.
And I eventually ended up selling the land, prematurely selling the land to someone, and years later that land became very valuable, because it was in the west end of Atlanta. And to your point, it's just purely because of the lack of education.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Because a lot of times we'll have something that don't know what to do with it. And when you're not educated about your options, you just think, oh, let me just sell it.
Yeah.
But the other person is educated and they see the potential. And then, years later, you be like, man, that land was worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Lack of education.
Yeah. Now, on the subject of education, and I think that obviously in the real estate industry, realtors are kind of the source of education, or at least they were prior to online education and courses and individuals like yourselves. People rely so heavily on realtors, right? There's a trust level that you have with realtors. But as you know, there's a lot of news been going on around realtors and things of that nature. In fact, when we go back to 2020, realtors were encouraging buyers to overpay for homes, right? I mean, it was this whole thing, with COVID and all that type of stuff, right? And some people feel that realtors took advantage of the COVID crisis to enrich themselves. What's your thought around that? And I know you're an ex-realtor yourself, right? But what's your thoughts around what happened in 2020 with realtors encouraging people to overpay for homes?
A lot of them probably did, man.
Yeah.
A lot of them probably did. And, like as a realtor, you have a fiduciary responsibility to your client.
Mm-hmm.
And your client either is going to be the buyer or your client is either going to be the seller. So, a lot of them probably did.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is just the fact that a lot of realtors are just uneducated. I mean, they go take the class and all that type of stuff, but most realtors, real estate agents, they're not the brightest bulb in the many of them aren't anyway. I mean, they are a small few, and I would say that are very good at what they do, right? And if you can ever find those people, man, you find the gem, right? Because if you think about it, how many real estate agents there is in the entire country? I think they say there's almost like 3 or 4 million.
It's a lot.
A million, right?
It's a lot less now than it
Yeah,
was
right,
6 months
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot.
And it's interesting because I was talking to one of my loan officers and I was like, man, do you realize that there are millions of real estate agents? You know how many loan officers there are in the country? There's only about 180,000 loan officers.
Wow.
Right? So what that tells me is that realtors don't understand the financial side of things. They don't understand the legal side of things, and a lot of times they do get people in messed up situations, right? Encouraging people to buy homes for overpriced, and basically people are now upside down and things of that nature. But the latest thing that happened, I want to get your take on this, where I think it was the National Realtors Association just had to pay this huge fine for the neglect that a lot of the realtors were doing, and now the realtors' commissions and things like that are supposed to may be getting cut. What impact do you think that's going to have on the industry?
I think it's going to have a pretty big impact on it. And I think it was like 418 million or something.
Yes.
And that just goes like a lot of people didn't know that they can negotiate their commissions. Like I saw the headline. I didn't dive into all the details that were claimed in it, but people just didn't know that they can negotiate their commissions. There are really good agents out there, and there are a lot of bad agents out there. But if I'm a home seller and I'm looking for an agent to sell my house, I really don't know if that agent's good or bad. Because a lot of times when that realtor comes out there, they want to say, yeah, I work for this company. These are my company stats. This is the market share that my company has. You know, this is what we're going to do to market your home. We're going to put it on the MLS. We're going to take pictures. We're going to put it on this site. We get thousands of viewers. So it'd be a lot of the fluff shit. You know, to be honest with you, you can really find your own photographer, put it on MLS yourself, and market it yourself and get exposure. Because the house is worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. So if you can get it online and get it on multiple channels, you will get exposure for it. The key to being a good real estate agent is not all the fluff on exposure. That stuff is good, but the key to being a good agent is the negotiations. Because when your home goes under contract and that amendment to address concerns come back, you need to be able to negotiate that. Like, you know, what are really problems or what are some stuff we can deal with? And then how do you negotiate that to keep that contract alive to create a win-win for the buyer and a win-win for the seller? And you know, like I know, you don't get good at any type of negotiations until you've experienced them.
Correct.
You know, I get, you know, even agents today call me. My license has been inactive, but I have agents that call me, you know, fairly frequently. Hey, Gene, this is the situation. I got this going on. The seller got to fix this. And how do I deal with it? They're getting ready to terminate and the closing's like Friday. I might say, well, put $5K in escrow, tell them it's going to survive closing. And then, you know, after closing, y'all can get it done. That way you can at least get the closing done. Hey, man, that worked great. But it's all about negotiation. And that's the key. But you don't get good at that until you experience those situations.
But everything is negotiable, right? I mean, like you were saying, in the real estate game, everything is negotiable, right? Yeah.
Even your fees are negotiable. So a lot of times, like even when I was a realtor, you know, we would present, hey, this is our standard fee that we charge or our company charge, which is true to a certain extent, but at the same time, it may not necessarily be true. You really can negotiate whatever fees you want. With my investors that I work with, I was already charging them like 1.5% versus the full 3% because I realized it was repeat business. So you can really charge what you want to charge, you know, as an agent.
Yeah.
Not saying that, you know, because I haven't worked with all the companies. I don't know what other brokers may have. So not saying that some brokers don't quote unquote mandate what they charge. But you can charge what you want to charge, and people are gonna pay what they want to pay. But I've already seen, like Redfin for years have been charging like I think 1.5%. You know, so there've already been discount brokers. There was another discount broker. I cannot remember her name, but I remember she got really big when I first got into real estate. I think her name might have been Rhonda Duffy Realty. She was charging a flat fee, but she was killing the game by charging that flat fee. But she had services. You can just list it for a flat fee. It might have been $500. All she did was put it in MLS. You got to deal with your own contracts, your own negotiation. Now, if you wanted, you know, contracts and some other stuff, it was a couple grand. Now, if you wanted full, she did have full service, I believe. But I feel like it's going to be more and more flat fee brokers, you know, that come from this.
Yeah. But to your point about the negotiation piece, which I think is so true, because I look at a realtor as almost like an attorney, right? You know, or an agent, right? Let's say if I'm in sports or whatever, right? The objective of a sports agent or an attorney is to negotiate on my behalf, right? If I'm in a situation with a crime, I want the best attorney who can negotiate for me, right? And I think realtors supposed to be the same way, right? Your job is to negotiate for me. And unfortunately, not all realtors are the same. And also, I learned this too. Depending upon the type of house you buying or the price point you buying, every realtor, you can't get that low jack realtor who been selling $100,000 homes all their career, and think that asshole can sell, can go up and sell or negotiate a sale of $1 million home.
Yeah.
That's a totally different ball game. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know?
It's just like, this is like being an attorney.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you see all that trouble P. Diddy in.
Right.
He about to hire the best legal team.
The best legal team.
He's not gonna go grab no attorney that deal with traffic tickets.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. That's exactly right. Yeah. And the mistake that we make, and me and my wife made that mistake. I remember the first one home, we were buying $1 million home. And man, and we've been dealing with this realtor. I won't call the name, but you know, and he had been selling and buying homes for us for years. But going to that level, it was just out of his wheelhouse. He didn't have the negotiation skills and the ability to be able to pull it off. And really, we got jammed up, right? Giving them too much money and stuff like that. Which things that should have been handled by the realtor.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, now with the change that's happening, I think a lot of people are going to start realizing that hey, I need to look for value in these realtors, not necessarily the fact that they are a realtor, but I need to look for value.
You have to look for value.
Yeah.
And it's hard to understand what value they have because you don't really know what situations they've been in terms of negotiation. I think if you're hiring a realtor, some of the questions you should ask after they done told you how many houses they done, the company stuff, and what they gonna do to advertise it. Give me a situation that was really hard where you were under contract and the buyer wanted to terminate.
Yeah.
What was that situation? How did you handle that situation? How do you address amendment to concerns?
Yeah.
How do you handle those situations? And you start to pull some of that information out, you'll see how they negotiate.
Absolutely.
But we don't know that we don't know to ask that.
Yeah, you won't. Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, Gene, let's talk a little bit about, and I know we're going to get into some topics, political type things, because obviously real estate is political, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whatnot. But I want to first talk about the concept or the whole thing around. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing this right, but it's gentrification, right? Did I pronounce that right?
You did it. Yeah, okay. You did that.
Yeah. I got that old South Carolina slang, so it might have threw you off a little bit. But gentrification, right? Do you think that gentrification is good or bad for urban communities?
It depends on a lot of different factors, and I will say this: when you think about gentrification. Mm-hmm. It goes back to education. How can they gentrify some shit we don't sell them? Let's just be real with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
It just goes back to education.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times grandma passed.
Yes.
And before I get into that, grandma them used to own their house.
Yes.
I don't know what happened where we stopped wanting to own our own houses. Because grandma them used to own their house.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
When grandma done passed, you got the kids fighting.
Yep.
Of course, how grandma done used to live. It's probably some wood house or some brick house, 1,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, or whatever the case might be in most of our situations. But the reason it goes back to education is because when grandma passed, the kids don't know what their options are. The only options that they understand is let's just sell it and split the profit.
They don't know what they have.
They don't know what
right.
they have.
Yeah, and it boils down to us not knowing what we have because we just look at it from the perspective, oh, that's that old raggedy house over there that grandma and them used to own. And we don't see the value in it because we don't understand the value of the dirt. But somebody else comes in and sees the value of the dirt. Exactly. It's not the house that they're really concerned with. It's the value of the dirt. And of course, if you think about it, I'm sure you probably see this a lot where you'll see a builder or developer come in and build this real pretty, fancy house right on the corner in the hood, right? Bigger. And you ask yourself, man, why is this beautiful home sitting on the corner in the hood like this, right? And really what they're doing is driving up the tax value, right? And of course, they drive up the tax value. Grandma and them can't pay the taxes. and then now someone comes in and buys the house, through a tax lien, right? Which tax liens, as you probably know, is a great investment strategy, right? With that being said, though, do you think that the government have a responsibility in knowing that most people don't understand the game, particularly like with tax liens, right? Again, using that analogy, where someone comes in, build that house and drive up the taxes, grandma and them can't pay the tax debt. Then I come in and I buy the tax lien, hold it for a year, and then now I own that house because they can't pay it. Do you think that the government has a responsibility in preventing investors from even coming in and doing that?
Maybe in certain instances, yes. But even when taxes go up, like, it honestly takes a long time for them taxes to really get up there. That's why I still say it goes back to us. Because like in an area like Westview or the West End, like, taxes just don't go up real quick overnight. Like, it takes time to start building houses here and there. And then once you get over a certain age, there is a lower tax bracket for people. Like, when you over, I don't know what the age limit is, but because I've bought properties and I've bought land from people that were over the age of 65, and they taxes a few $100s a year.
Oh, you're saying that their taxes are so, and I hope that is the case, because I think that would be a good thing if they're at a certain age. They will limit how much they have to, their tax rate. Yeah,
if they're at a certain age, there is a limit on what they pay in taxes.
Okay.
Case in point, I got some land in McDonough, 10 acres. My taxes not that much. They like $3,000 a year. But when I bought this land from her a few years ago, she was only paying $300 a year. So because they're over a certain age, their taxes are not that much.
Got it.
The issue is that we don't understand, we're not educated, and we don't understand our options. For instance, let's just take a property in the West End. Maybe the property's free and clear. Maybe there's a small mortgage on the property, 25, 50K. Maybe as is, the property's worth 150,000. So there is value there.
Yeah.
When there's value there, you have options. The education part comes in is, let's just not sell it for dirt cheap. Let's figure out what the alternatives are. If there's value there, you could probably get a hard money loan on that property.
Correct.
To renovate it. You already coming in with equity in it. You're just increasing the equity by renovating it. Now you can do a cash out refi and potentially take equity out the property and keep that property into your family and pass it down. But we're not educated. Anytime we see some money, opportunity, I don't care if it's $5,000 or $10,000, kids get to fighting over it, property end up, in probate, and the only people that are winning are the attorneys and the person that ends up buying it, and we end up losing.
Yeah.
So it really goes back to education. Like, I know there's been a big push for financial literacy, and that's gonna be key. That's definitely needed. Just from simple things on learning about credit and paying bills on time, like all those simple things. But I even feel like there needs to be a financial real estate, literacy.
Absolutely.
Just on the basics of just real estate and how it appreciates, and then just your options so that people understand what they have. We just never understand what we have, and we don't understand our options.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, gentrification is caused by us. Like, if we don't sell it, who can buy what you can't sell?
That's true. That's so true. And then when you couple that with people like a lot of the wholesalers that come in, because wholesalers are nothing more than just salesmen, right? They come in and nothing against wholesalers, but obviously they come in with their strategies but they don't realize that they are leveraging those strategies against people who are defenseless. Right? If you really think about it, right? It's like kicking somebody's ass who's defenseless. They can't fight back, right? So they come in with their strategies, not realizing that you actually taking advantage of that person. Because like you were saying, maybe there was a much better option for them, but if that option was never presented to them, they don't know. And if they don't know, then now it opens you up to just to take advantage of them.
Yep.
And I think that's the part that I think is wrong.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And my last point is this: who does gentrification affect mostly?
I mean, urban. I mean, the urban community, black folk.
Urban, but it mostly affects renters more than sellers.
True.
I have a house
True.
at 2808 Hosea Williams.
Yeah.
The black lady that lives across the street has been there for 40 years. Mm-hmm. She bought that house for dirt cheap way back when she bought it. Her house is worth at least $500K right now as is. And
So she ain't selling.
She ain't selling.
Right.
But it's that renter that it's going to affect. If you're a homeowner, you benefit from appreciation.
Yes. Yeah.
That equity goes towards your net worth. Like, you benefit from that.
Yeah.
Her house is paid off free and clear.
So why do you think? So she's, which I think is good. She's not selling because I think maybe she's not selling because she's going to hold out to see if she can get the maximum that she could possibly get, right? Or maybe she's just holding out because she just don't want to leave where she lives.
She don't want to leave. She's comfortable,
But let me ask you this. Do you think that comfortability, though, would come back and bite her? Meaning that if she can't, if she wants to live there, so she don't want to leave, right? And if she's living on a fixed income, sooner or later, she's going to get squeezed out. The property values will start shooting up. Even though she owns the property free and clear, the property value is going to start shooting up to the point where she's not going to be able to pay the taxes. Or maybe she hoped that someone would come in and help her pay the taxes, right? But if she's on a fixed income, how long can she hold out? When at some point in time you may say, look, I mean, if you got that much equity in the home, when do you say, let me take my money and run?
Yep. I mean, you're right about that, but that just goes back to her personal situation.
That's true, yeah.
But of course, if she has kids, then being educated, you have to understand what options are.
Education is the
grandma
key.
house worth $500K.
Yeah.
Let's not sell that shit for $250.
Right.
You got options.
Right. That's a good point. All right, let's talk about this. So, because obviously home ownership we talk about as being important. There are some lenders, I think it was back about a year ago, Bank of America came out with this program with what is a 1% down program. Or in some cases now you got some lenders coming out with no money down through their DP programs, right? Down payment assistance programs. For people to purchase homes, but here's the key though. They can only purchase these homes, because that's how that Bank of America program was. You can only purchase a home in specific areas. Do you think this is another form of redlining?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what redlining is.
Yeah.
Driving a certain group of people to a certain area.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I do.
Yeah, because when I first heard about that program come out, and that's what I thought. I was like, okay, you got a 1% down or no money down program. Bank of America made this big announcement like it was a great thing for families but you're forcing people into a certain area, geographical area, and yeah, they bought their homes with no money down, but I mean, now you got them all in that one area. Now you can come right back and start devaluing the market, right?
And it's redlining.
Yeah.
Let's just cut
redlining.
Shit. That's
Yeah.
redlining.
It's almost,
because I think when they framed it up, it was supposed to be like, and it's been a while. I'm might be paraphrasing, but it was like, we're gonna come out with an opportunity for Blacks and Latinos to buy homes and not have to put down much money.
That's what it was. Yeah.
But y'all ass got to go buy over here.
But you got to go buy over here.
Redlining,
yeah,
man. Let's just cut.
It's redlining. It's damn near no more similar than damn Gaza.
Yeah.
You know what's happening over in Israel with Gaza, right? They put all the people in one concentrated area, let them stay there for years, and now look what Israel is doing to the people of Gaza right now, right? And I'm leery of that when I tell my wife all the time, I say, I prefer to live in diverse communities because You know what I mean? I don't, because I don't trust the fact that, okay, if all of us are just in one community, all by ourselves, right? You know, what kind of food supplies coming in the area, right? You know, what kind of infrastructure is coming in the area, right? You know, you can't really trust your political leaders, particularly if most of them are black. You can't trust them because you don't know if they're working for the other side, right? So I agree with you. I think it's redlining. Yeah, I think it's redlining. So do you think that, this is another question I want to ask you, do you think that we are headed towards a renter's nation?
I do.
Yeah.
When we talked earlier, I think I said it was a report that said 23% of all homes in Metro Atlanta. Who really knows what that actual number is?
Yeah.
But by 2040, 2050, these hedge funds owning
All
50%,
the house. Yeah.
game over. Like if your ass don't buy a house now, you gonna fuck around and not own nothing.
Right. No. Yeah.
That's how I feel.
But isn't that what they said that I think they were saying that BlackRock or they're basically saying that we will get to the point where America owns nothing and they will be good and they be happy about it.
Yeah. Because like when you think about like, again, maybe I read too much into stuff, but I pay attention to a lot of stuff. And, you know, even like in the city, like these younger kids, they want convenience, man.
Yeah.
They don't want to cut grass. They want to Uber their food to the house. They're not going to drive nowhere. They're going to take an Uber. So people are getting conditioned to want less.
Convenience.
Yeah, convenience. Want
Convenience,
convenience. Yeah, not want less, but want convenience.
Yeah.
You know, so wanting that convenience, I don't want to cut no grass.
Right.
You know? So when you can, you know, frame it up as if, hey, just rent and just pay and you get them some amenities, that's what they're going to be conditioned to want. Mm-hmm. But again, I still think owning a house or owning just property is still one of the best investments that you can make.
No, I agree.
Period.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, like I said, I mean, I think owning real estate is something that we all have to do, right? All of us should, in some form or fashion, own real estate, whether it's your own home or whether you own rental property or whether you crowdfund with family members and friends to own property. I think you have to do it because, like you said, I mean, it is the dirt. God ain't creating no more dirt.
Nope.
Right? God ain't creating no more land. We people are fighting. The world is fighting right now over land. This whole thing that's going on in Israel and all that type of stuff is all about land. I don't care what nobody. It's all about land.
Yep. Man, I tell people, man, listen, do what's best for you. I can tell you what I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna be buying houses. I'm gonna be buying land.
Right.
Because I can see it, I can touch it, I can feel it, and I know what my options are.
Right.
Because you're either gonna be paying that mortgage for yourself to build equity, or you're gonna be paying that mortgage for your landlord to own equity. Because if you just, in my opinion, if you just renting, like if you rent for 20 years, that money just going away. You ain't gonna never build no equity or own shit.
True.
I mean, we never really own it.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, because you got taxes, expenses, you know, maintenance and all that stuff. But I look at the houses that I do own, and I'm way better for owning them.
Yeah.
I got shit I bought in 2018 for $50,000 that's worth $300,000 now.
Yeah.
You know, I got other houses that I bought that I've refinanced when the rates was lower. Because when you refinance it, you know, and the money you get.
But
is
but the
tax-free.
difference
So
though is you own.
Understand the game.
But your difference is you own houses with an S, plural, right? You know what I mean? And most of them are investment homes. Now you probably own the home you live in as well too, but you also own houses, which is the concept that I believe in, is that invest in owning real estate, right? You know. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question. This question I want to ask you a little bit earlier, but we kind of talked through it, but I'm going to bring it back. If someone had $50,000 in, say, their savings, right? And they had an option to either buy a personal home and put $50,000 down on a personal home, or to take that $50,000 and buy an investment property, what would you recommend them to do?
I would look at their situation and try to help them make the best decision. Now I'm putting my realtor hat on.
Okay, yeah.
You know, if you got a family and you got small kids,
Okay.
it may benefit you to buy that house.
Okay.
Because I got 4 daughters.
That's correct.
So we bought our house, but it creates stability for your kids.
Yes.
You know where your kids gonna go to school at. You're there. If you're in another situation, maybe you don't have any kids, but maybe renting might be a better option for you. You might be single, y'all young, y'all travel a lot, y'all busy, y'all don't want responsibilities. But take that money and put it in an investment, because that money is just like being in the bank. You gotta look at it as like being in a bank account.
Yes.
Because if that $50,000 is in a bank account, 3-4 years from now, that $50,000 is gonna actually lose money.
Yes, it will.
And it's not gonna grow that much.
No.
You might be lucky if it's $51,000 in 3 years.
Exactly.
But with inflation, it's actually gonna be, the value of it is gonna be less.
Be lower. That's right.
But if you put that shit in real estate,
yes.
you know, you're gonna grow that equity in that house. You're gonna have options.
Yeah.
Yeah. With rental properties, like I have a lot of rentals, and owning rental properties is not for everyone. We talk about the equity, we talk about cash flow, but rental properties don't really produce a lot of cash flow.
No, it doesn't. That's
and
right.
I understand that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm not gonna sit up here and say, hey, I got 18 rentals and I'm living off cash flow. No, the fuck I'm not.
No, you're not.
I got 18 rentals and I got expenses.
Right.
I'm happy at the end of the year if I'm in the green on all my rental properties.
Because what is the, I think it's, what is it, like $300 a month in positive cash flow that you could estimate that a single unit, and when we talk about units, we talk about single family homes, or even if you got multi-family units, a single unit typically is going to bring you in about $300 to $400 in net profit.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you get a house and you do the Burr method, right now you might be pretty much break even because rates are higher.
Yes.
But if rates were a little lower, so typically in a regular market, if I refinance, I might get about $300, $400 if I'm lucky.
Yes.
The reason I like new construction is because new construction, I can push a little bit.
Yeah.
I might get 5 to 6. And the thing about new construction is that the first 5 years is when you get typically the most appreciation.
Correct. Yes.
The other thing about rental properties is that at a certain point, like, you start to have maintenance. So with a new construction, I'm gonna sell it or refinance or whatever. I normally try to sell them after about 5 to 6 years, because after about that 7-year mark, what happens? That roof ain't 2-3 years old. No
that's true.
The motherfucker start to be 7-8 years old.
Yeah.
The AC unit, AC unit might only have a 10-year, 12-year, 15-year lifespan on it. So you get to start to have a property that's 7-8 years. The AC unit ain't new no more. That motherfucker 8-9 years old. You know, that carpet, replace floors, the style done change. You done put, in the 90s we're using Travertine tile. The 2000s we're using agreeable gray paint and white shakers. Like, so too many things can change. So 7-8 years, you might have to go back and dump $30,000-$40,000 in it to get it market ready. But if it's 3, 4, 5 years old, it might be a lighter cosmetic job. So there is a lifespan on your property, depending on how much you put in it.
Yeah.
So my thing is, I like to hold them for about 5 years and sell them before all those major expenses kick in.
Yeah.
But typically, you're right. If you buy a rental house that's existing, maybe you put some money in it to get rent ready, you're only gonna be about $300 a month.
Right.
So I play the equity game.
So you playing the equity game.
I play the equity game. Because if you think you just gonna retire from rental properties,
no,
you fooling yourself.
Right.
You need to play the equity game. So I strategically invest in areas because I've done the market research. Like you say, the West End. Like, I knew the West End was coming, but I'm not gonna be the first 10%.
Right.
I'm gonna be that 20 to 30% because that's when you can really take advantage of it. Now, if your ass waited to then turn, you're gonna pay a premium.
Yeah.
So I play a game where I research my market and I'm looking for that appreciation. I'm looking for that house that's gonna be 200 now, but in 5 years is 350, 400. So that's the game that I play. Because you're gonna have a water heater go out. You're gonna have something that happens. You're gonna have vacancies. You're gonna have any little thing. That's $300 a month. That water heater, $1,200.
Oh, it wipes you out.
That's done wiped out 4 months. Let something else happen. That property's negative.
Yeah.
So I understand I'm playing the equity game.
Yeah.
But the other side of having rentals, I understand that I can depreciate them for tax purposes as well.
Well, that's another thing that people don't. That's right. Yeah.
So fuck the cash flow.
Yes.
I'm looking at appreciation and I'm looking at the benefit from taxes.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't look at it that way because most of us want to just make the cash flow. But I agree with you. The cash flow is, I personally think, like you said, the tax depreciation to me is the king.
It's king.
That's the king. The tax appreciation, equity accumulation obviously is a good thing, but that's kind of speculative because tax depreciation, you getting that.
Yeah.
That's a given, right? So I know that I'm going to knock off X amount of dollars, especially with the bonus, the accelerated depreciation that we're seeing right now, But to your point, like cash flow to me is just icing on the cake.
Icing on the cake.
Yeah, yeah.
But when people buy real estate, man, like they have to set their mind to real estate is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Like think about this, and this is just a common sense question. If you flip in a house and your numbers say you can make 50, 75,000 after you finish it, that's normally within a 12-month period.
Yeah.
Think about how much you can make in 5 years.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a long-term play.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to lose in real estate if you plan long-term.
Yeah.
And you can look at every 10-year period in history. It's always been up. And it's a timing game. Sometimes, you buy a house, the rates might go up. So if you bought a house last year, think you can flip it, the rates go up. It's a lot of people like, man, damn, I'm fuck around, lose money. But they won't lose money if they change their mindset.
Right.
If
they just hold it.
Yeah, they just hold it. But then there's a lot of people out there like, man, I got this house, I done renovated, I don't know how to hold it. Raise the money, use other people's money.
Right.
It's a lot easier to raise that capital on something that's finished than a concept or a raggedy ass house you're thinking about renovating.
That is true.
If I came to you and I said, hey, Tim, I got this house. Of course, rates are higher. I paid $200 for the house. The renovation was $300. We can probably get $375 for it, appraisal value. So there is some equity in it.
Yes.
About $75,000 in equity. The issue is I done paid $50,000 in mortgage payments or whatever.
Yeah.
So if we look at what it could potentially be worth in 5 years, maybe it's 4.25. I'm looking for an investor to come in and put, $50,000 in it to help me refinance it, and then let's hold it for 5 years, and then we'll split the profit 50-50.
So the investor basically is just helping them handle the carrying costs.
Or just refinance.
Or refinance.
So now you done saw the house. I show you the inspection report. The house looked good.
Yeah.
You done put $50,000 in it. Now we refinance it. And then in 3-5 years, we know we ain't gonna make a lot of cash flow.
That's right.
In 5 years, we can sell it and make $100.
Yes.
Now you done put $50,000 in,
and you're gonna get your 50 back.
Yeah.
You're gonna get your 50 back plus another 50.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And even if you put 50 in and get 30
back, you
if
still
you
win.
do the math, you still win.
Yeah.
Because now you're, and not only that, but that goes back to our previous conversation. You make the money, but if you're part owner, guess what? You get the tax depreciations as well. So you have to know how to get creative with this game, and you have to play it in longer intervals. We're so used to, let's wholesale this property, make this quick bread, or let's flip this house, make this quick bread. But when you can play longer term, you're gonna make more money.
And it goes back to what the theme of everything we talk about is education.
Education.
That's the theme of it all is education.
And I've heard this before. I'm sure you've probably heard it, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, a poor man thinks about what they're gonna eat today.
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And then you got the other class of people thinking about what they gonna eat this week or what they gonna do this week.
That's right. Yeah.
But then the billionaire mindset is like they're thinking 50, 100 years from now.
That's correct.
So we have to just start thinking longer term.
Yeah.
And stop thinking about today and next year. We gotta start thinking long term.
And the problem with that is that we are in a society of immediate gratification.
Exactly.
So we've been trained to want immediate gratification, which I think we need to teach ourselves how to break away from that, right? So the way I look at it is when you think about accelerated depreciation on property, right, with real estate, there's what we call recapturing of that depreciation. So if I accelerate a property, if I accelerate the depreciation of property, let's say I accelerated, forced acceleration in the first 5 years. I mean, I accelerated the full depreciation of that property. I took the write-off. But if I sell it before then, or before 27 years, I gotta now, the IRS says I gotta recapture it, which means that I now owe them. Typically what we do is we would then buy another piece of real estate and start the process over again. We would then accelerate depreciation on a new property, which offsets the the money that I was supposed to pay the IRS.
Yeah.
If they stop that law, if they decide that we're going to stop this, you're going to catch investors right in the middle. You understand what I'm saying? That's going to be harmful to a lot of investors. If you catch me in the middle, meaning that I've done accelerated depreciation of my property, and now I'm trying to go buy another property, and I can't accelerate depreciation of that property, that means I now owe the IRS all this money. And that is huge. And so I'm glad that they extended it, but the question now is how long will they extend it, and what candidate will continue to extend it? So when you think about things like that, I mean, a lot of people just look at the presidential election as a social thing. I don't look at it just as a social thing. Do I like the guy? Hell, let truth be told, I don't like none of these motherfuckers.
No, hell no.
You know what I'm saying? I don't like Biden. I think Biden is too old. You know what I'm saying? I think both of them are too old. I don't like neither one of them, but at the same time, too, who is going to help me realize my financial potential? And I think that's what you're saying.
It ain't even the lesser of two evils. It's like who do I think might help me the most with what I'm trying to accomplish?
That's right.
And right now, let's be honest, there's a housing shortage, but the housing shortage is leaning more towards affordability. There's an affordability shortage. Rent sky fucking high. Houses are high. And a lot of people talk about, man, the real estate investors, like what they, in my opinion, what they need to do is have better tax credits, better incentives for real estate and builders.
Yes.
The reason I'm not going to build a starter home because it costs too fucking much.
Absolutely.
It cost me $130,000 to build a 2,000 square foot house. Do the math on that.
Absolutely. That's right.
By the time I buy the land and build a house on a 2,000 square foot house, and I pay the loan payments, I done spent $400,000, $450,000.
Absolutely. That's
How
right.
can I make it affordable?
That's right.
I can't.
You can't. That's
So
right.
give me some tax incentives so we can make affordable housing.
That's right.
Inflation is too much.
That's right.
You know, because
and I'm gonna make a good point too. I'm kind of kicking my own self in the ass when I say this, but I think it's true. I mean, you think about early builders or builders like yourself, right? Even people like you have experience. It's hard for you to go and get a bank loan to build homes, right? For investment purposes, right? You can't go down to JP Morgan Chase and say, hey, give me a loan to build these 3 houses. They're not going to give you the money, right? Therefore, you have to come to people like myself who are hard money lenders, right? And the interest rates that hard money lenders charge forces you to have to increase the price of the home, because that's the only way you can make profit.
Yep.
You right? Because hard money lenders now, with the interest rates the way it is today, most hard money lenders are starting at 12% and going up to 18%. Right? So as you have to be able to You have to force the price, so to speak, to be able to even make a decent profit on the deal.
And there are three things. You're right about that. Number one is, I understand the permitting process. They need to be, the permits need to be in place so that certain guidelines are in place so that you're building inspections and all that stuff. But it shouldn't take 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, a year to get permits in the city.
No, it shouldn't. No, it shouldn't.
Streamline the fucking process.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing is tax credits. Make tax credits and incentives on people who are really changing these communities and building houses. And the last thing you just pointed on, cost of money. It's 12, 13% to get access to this capital to build money. So if y'all want to make houses affordable so people can afford houses, then start with those three things.
Absolutely, right. Yeah, because if you don't change that, the consumer will always be the one that's going to suffer the burden of it all.
Yep.
You know, and most consumers don't understand that, because most consumers just think, oh, well, why this is happening?
Yep.
But you got to understand, follow the money chain, right? You know, it's not, that's why they complain about corporations and shit like that. But it's like, look, you gotta follow the money chain.
Yep. Consumers don't understand.
Yeah.
Because they see, oh, he sold a house for $450,000. He made $200,000. No, $450,000. He might have made $30,000.
Exactly right. That's
right.
Right.
If he lucky
If
at that price point.
That's right.
That's why I'm not building $400,000 houses.
That's right. I get it.
Because this is like, for me, it's the same work to build a house for $450,000 as it is to build a house for $800,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most people will do the same thing. If it takes you, just say 12 months to build a house, in 12 months to build a house, on house number A, if you're going to make $30,000, on house number B, you're going to make $100,000, which one you going to choose?
Right. Yeah.
You're going to choose B every time.
Absolutely. All the time. All right. So we're trying to close out now. We got on the last stretch. I know, well, this has been some good conversation, man. This has been great, right? For someone who's just getting started in the real estate game, what advice would you give them?
Education. Like, I can only speak on my experience. Getting my real estate license was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah. Because
it gave me the basics, like understanding contracts, understanding certain laws, rules, and regulations. It gave me a network, because when you join a brokerage, because back then I joined, you remember this, GMAC, Metro Brokers.
Yeah, Metro
Brokers.
Yeah.
Now you see all Mark Spain, but back then it was all GMAC.
Yeah, that's right.
But they gave a lot of training, fast start training, how to run comps, how to value properties, all type of stuff. And then we had classes where inspectors came in, lenders came in. So you got to start with that core education. So it just boils down to education, and getting your real estate license. It's low-hanging fruit. When I took the class, I don't know if it changed, but it was a 75-hour course.
I think it is
you
now.
take the 75-hour course. You can do it online for a couple $100. You can pay $400-500 to take it in person. There are brokers out there that will pay for you to take your course. Then it's $175 to pay the fee to take the test. But it's so much value in that. The value is just understanding just the basics. The thing about getting your license, it ain't gonna teach your ass how to sell no houses and make no money, but it's gonna teach you the value stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate by getting my license, because it taught me the value stuff.
Do you think that there are brokers out there brokerages out there that are still doing that level of education? Because I remember, like, you're right. I remember back GMAC, great education, but I don't know, other than people like yourself and what people can find online, do you see that there are brokerages out there that are doing this level of training?
Yeah, there's still some good brokers out there. Even when I was at Keller Williams had some really phenomenal training. And I still teach today at Keller Williams.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Because I got several brokers that call me and say, hey, Gene, we want to do a class on new construction or just investing. And I'll pull up, and of course do the class. But there are a lot of classes that you can take so it's just education. But even with the education they give you, I think any person that wants to accomplish something, they got to be willing to just dive all in.
Yeah.
So when I got my real estate license, speaking back to Metro Brokers, they had training classes during the week, but they had a fast start program that was 12 weeks, and it was every Saturday and Sunday. Now, mind you, I was driving truck at night. So I was driving, I was already tired, and I had to work. I had to go to work Sunday night. So I worked from Sunday night to Thursday night. I was off Friday and Saturday. So I would go to class all day Saturday. I would go to class on Sunday. When I left class, I had to go to JB Hunt and drive. Now, driving is not easy.
No.
Because I was local, but sometimes I have to go to Chattanooga, come back, go to Knoxville, come back, go to Birmingham, come back, or sometimes I was local. So I'd be dog tired, man. But I say that to say I put everything I had into real estate. And not only that, when I'm driving at night, guess what I'm listening to? I'm listening to like something on YouTube or something on podcast.
Yeah.
So you got to dive on in, and you got to change your mindset first and believe that you can do it. My grandfather always had this saying, if you think you can, you probably can.
Right.
If you think you can't, you
probably
probably can't.
Yeah, right.
But guess what? Either way you right, man.
Right.
So it's just like people just, with Instagram and social media, people look at that instant gratification. A lot of people call, man, hey man, like, I can't believe you doing all them houses and all this blah, blah, blah. But your ass knew what I was doing. 12, 15. Bro, it was work. It was hard.
That's what I'm saying. Perception.
It's a grind.
Perception is everything, right? Because this is the first time I ever heard your story about you driving.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, I can't even see you in a truck. I'm like, this motherfucker can't drive no damn truck.
18-wheeler.
I'm like, this motherfucker can't drive no damn 18-wheeler truck.
Hey, Tim, back then, buddy, I knocked them gills down.
And you used to drive trucks like that?
Drive truck. Bro,
Wow.
I used to, like, with JB Hunt, bro, I go up, because I lived in McDonough.
Yeah.
So my main rail yard was in Austell.
Yeah.
So McDonough and Austell, that's 45 minutes, hour and 10 with traffic. It would be times where the thing I liked about that job, I had flexibility when I can kind of go in.
Yeah.
So I can get in, I could actually go to work about as early as 3:34. But I still had to run my loads. A lot of times I get to work about 6, 7, but I'm gonna do 10, 12 hours. So if I gotta go to Knoxville, it might take a couple hours to unload, and I come back. I done put in, 10, 12 hours. But when I get back to the yard, I still had to drive home. It would be times, bro, where I'd be so tired I couldn't even make it back home, because it's an hour drive with traffic. It used to be a Shoney's, man. I get breakfast at Shoney's. I might sleep in the parking lot for a couple hours, let traffic die down before I could make it back home. It'd be times, I remember I'd be 20, 30 minutes from the house. I couldn't even make it home. I got to stop in the Walmart parking lot to go to sleep because I was just that tired. Because you got to remember, I'm not sleeping a lot in the daytime already.
Yeah.
If I get up at 12, I'm going to the office. I'm cold calling. I'm taking classes. I'm working on real estate. When I finish doing that for 4, 5, 6 hours, I still got to go to work and drive truck for 10, 12 hours and then make it home, man. So it was a fucking grind them first years, man. But you have to push through it to get to it.
Yeah.
When I think back now, like I showed y'all the message from my guy that I talked about earlier, got the 10 houses you want to sell. I talked to, I kid you not, at least 500 people told me no before I met him. He was like, okay, well, go. Because I was going to the auctions passing out cards. People weren't calling me back. Oh, I got an agent, this, that, and the third.
Yes.
But you got to be persistent, no matter how long it takes, because everybody's journey is different. You don't know if your journey is going to be 100 steps or 1,000 steps, but you got to keep putting one step in front of the other to get there. You don't know if it's around this corner or the next corner, because all of our paths are different.
Yes.
But you got to have your why. And you got to keep grinding. It could be 1 year. It could be 10 years. It might take a motherfucker 20 years.
Yeah.
The average CEO is like 51 years.
That's true.
You
That's
know,
right. Yeah.
we live in a microwave society where we want instant gratification. You got motherfuckers graduating high school think they should be a millionaire and ain't put in no work.
Exactly.
Let's get real. This shit gonna take some time.
Exactly. Right. But I think that's probably the answer to the question about what advice are you giving. I think that's the answer, right?
Patience. It's
right?
gonna take time.
Patience, because you stuck in there and you was patient the whole time. To me, that's why that's why I love about this show, right? Bootstrapping, right? People, to me, that word in of itself is a powerful word. Bootstrap. You bootstrapped your way all the way through from being that guy that was working, like you said, doing the quote unquote low level job, but you wanted something more for yourself and you just kept pushing up and up, but you creating value along the way. I don't think a lot of people understand that today.
Man, my mom was a janitor. My grandma they worked in cafeterias.
See?
Man, my grandma made $13,000 a year as a cafeteria worker. She worked there over 35 years.
Yeah.
My mom, like I said, my mom was a janitor. My dad was a hustler.
Mm-hmm.
He sold fish off the back of his truck.
Yeah.
Man, I remember growing up, we would go cut grass. We would go pull maypop. We did anything to make $1 legal.
Yeah.
Legally.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just, I saw say he was a hustler. Mm-hmm. So I didn't come from a silver spoon. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a small town. At one point, we lived in a double wide trailer in a small town called Umatilla, Florida, that's south of Ocala National Forest.
Right.
We grew up shooting rabbits, squirrels. You know what I'm talking about.
Love it.
South Carolina.
I know what you
My daddy used to catch possums. My daddy still get raccoons to this day.
That's right.
I called my dad a couple weeks ago, and I was like, "What's up, Dad? Where you at?" He's like, boy, I'm out here. Got me a coon."
Absolutely.
That's how we grew up, man.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So when I moved to Atlanta, it was just like I didn't know nobody.
Yeah.
But I had one thing. I had work ethic and I had hustle.
Yeah.
And I figured, man, if I can just apply those things,
I'll make it work.
Figure it out.
Right. So let me ask you this. With the construction keys, I want to talk a little bit about the construction keys as we close out. I often hear you say this, that, and I think you probably already, you don't have to elaborate on this too much because I think you kind of touched on this, but why do you like new construction over fix and flip?
The biggest reason is you can create your own inventory. The market's changing. The world's a lot smaller. A lot of these builders, they're building the same cookie. Like you can drive over all around Atlanta and go in the subdivision. The same house, you see in Roswell might be the same house you see in McDonough. It's just a different price point because of the location. Same stuff they putting in. So I think now there's really an opportunity to create your own inventory.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like creating your own inventory. Think about this. Who sets the market, the prices? Builders, developers.
Yeah, that's true.
It's about what you create.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people don't know what the hell they like until they see it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you be scrolling on Instagram and be like, see a house, oh, this in Texas? Damn, oh, this in another state? So the world has gotten a lot smaller because of social media.
Yeah.
So creating your own inventory, I feel like is a key. The other thing is if you really know real estate, you understand how it changed. Because wholesaling has been around for years and years and years. I used to have one of the biggest wholesale companies back in 2010, 2011. I was wholesaling 10, 20 houses a month with Gateway Acquisitions Group. Mm-hmm. But now it's mainstream and it's new to a lot of people. It's been mainstream for a while, but this shit's been around even back in the 70s and the 80s. Mm-hmm. We just was not educated enough to understand what it was about. I have a friend that's an older white guy. He's probably 85, 86. He was telling me he was wholesaling in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But we just now getting hip to some of these different ways to make money. So everything boils down to just education, man. That's what it boils down to.
So let me ask you this. Do you think investing in real estate can help close the wealth gap?
I think it can. I think owning real estate, because if you look at a lot of, I'm sure wealthy people, they all have a large real estate portfolio.
Yes.
For sure. For sure. And you get creative in so many different ways, man. I got a friend, he bought his house cash. He paid like $1.6 million for a house cash. But guess what he did when he bought it cash? First, he bought it cash and he bought it in his business name. The other thing is he went and got a mortgage on it after he bought it cash.
Okay.
Because, when you borrow the money on it, then it's tax free. But it's so many different games you can play with.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
With
So he bought it cash in his business name, which gives him
borrowed
the
the
write
money.
out.
Yeah.
And then he went and borrowed against it.
Yeah.
That gives him now the money back tax free.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's games you can play with real estate, man.
Monopoly, baby.
Yeah,
It's
real
Monopoly.
life Monopoly.
Okay. All right. So, how is the Construction Kings? So we're gonna, obviously the Construction Kings, the building builders boot camp, right?
Yep.
Is that what you guys have, right?
Yep.
How is your academy different from others that are out there? Because and I ask this question because I remember when you guys first started this academy, and in my humble opinion, it's probably the best academy when it comes to real estate investing that you're gonna find. Just sheer to the point of just as a result of the information and the transparency that you guys provide to the people, right? But obviously, the more successful you become, you guys become successful. Now the imitators have come out, right? Hell, many of them motherfuckers probably went to your school and then turn around and, they went to your class and then now they're trying to start their own shit, right?
Yes, that's crazy, man. Right? Like when I launched the first boot camp in February of 2022, I could not think of one single person that was teaching people how to build from the ground up.
Right.
I saw wholesaling.
Yes.
I saw fix and flip.
Yes.
I saw real estate in general, but there was not one single person.
I totally agree.
And I see every day I see somebody new.
Yeah.
Talking about teaching people how to build from the ground up. The only thing that I can say to that is look at the results.
Yes.
Gene, Gene _ Johnson 1, and just look at how many people are building.
Yeah.
Within a couple years of launching, we've had over 50 students building.
That's right.
It's all about results.
Yeah.
Fuck all the other shit.
Yeah.
How many people have you taught how to do this?
Right. Because
it's easy to do it for yourself because I've been doing it for 17 years. It's a lot harder to teach somebody that a software engineer that works for AT&T, that's a teacher, and these are all real people that we've taught.
Yes.
191 Darwish, Gene Altador, no experience. He's building a house right now. Ken and April Usher.
Yeah.
And Michelle and Hugh Winston. East Lake Road, 1600 East Lake Road. Bianca Stewart, psychiatrist, her friend, Jayana, 210 Escalade Court. 516 Burrell Way, Renita, Tavares, Rutley. I can go on and on about people with real results. And these are addresses that you can Google.
Yeah.
They real properties. And the thing that I'm so proud of, when you look at like what I used to do, like when I got into real estate, man, I found a house, because I'm uneducated, I didn't know. I'm trying to paint the cabinets. I'm trying to paint the countertops. I'm in Sharon Williams talking about, hey, what y'all got to paint tile? You know what I'm saying? I'm painting floors. I'm trying to paint everything in there. Hey, Tim, I think at one point, I damn near tried to paint a refrigerator. That's real talk, because I didn't know. Right. You know what I'm saying? You learning.
Right.
But if I look at the houses that I did back then, I'd tear them motherfuckers down. They're not to my standard.
Right.
You know, but now when I look at what the students are building,
Yes.
they building stuff that I would build today.
Man, your
because they got the sauce,
man. Your students are building some great things. And what I really like about it, because I interact with your students a lot, is the collaboration that they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they collaborate. I mean, they many of them meet one another in your boot camps, and then they form partnerships with one another from the boot camps, and then they go out and start building. It takes a great amount of trust to trust somebody to come together and form of LLC together and to go and build. But I think because they know that they all are coming from the same origin,
Yep.
that they all are learning from the same place, that they know and feel comfortable enough to know that they can make this a great business venture together, and they're having success doing it. So that to me, that's powerful in of itself. And like I said, I don't know if we see this. I don't really follow some of these other cats. I mean, sometimes I see little Instagram posts, but first time I see them, I'm like, these motherfuckers just imitating. Right?
Man, listen, I can sit up here and say, I'm comfortable saying that I'm 43 years old and in the single family space, I don't think it's another African American that has built and renovated more houses in the city of Atlanta.
Yeah.
I got all my HUD statements.
Yes, yeah.
Put them on the table and let's see who did the most houses.
Yeah. I agree.
I've built and renovated 500-600 houses, and that's real.
I agree.
As an agent, I've sold over 2,000 houses, and that's real.
Yeah.
And as an educator, there's not another person since February 2022 that has taught more people to build more houses. I got the students. I got the HUD statements. Put them on the table. That's real. I got all my addresses. I challenge anybody who's saying they doing it to put it on the HUD, put it on the table, and let's look at HUD statements. But these ain't HUD statements, Tim, that, that was my friend. No, motherfucker. These HUD statements with my company, and I am the licensed, registered person for that company. This ain't my friend company.
That's right.
These my companies.
Yeah.
I challenge anybody to put it on the table. Because you can't fake them HUD statements and results.
I totally agree with you, brother. I totally agree. So last question, and as we close out this great podcast, man, and I'm glad that, I'll thank you for being on it in a few minutes, but what are your goals for the next 3 to 5 years when it comes to real estate, and for your companies, the Construction King? What are your goals?
So, number one, starting with the school, I've been so focused on the school. Mm-hmm. Number one is I'm not gonna say we did everything backwards. I think we did everything the right way.
Yes, yeah.
When we first started coaching, and even now, we were so hands-on with people.
Yeah.
And I knew I couldn't scale my time.
Yeah.
But it's so important for me to learn what people need. So I'm appreciative that I've given so much time to my students to help them become successful, because now they are the ambassadors, they're the future teachers, they're the future educators. And so we built the network the right way. It was about them. We're evolving, because this goes back to the last question. What would I tell somebody? It's patience, but it's also understanding that we evolve and you have to pivot. Whatever you're doing today, that shit might not work in 6 months. It might not work in a year or 2 years.
Correct.
I can even see that in my own business. Some of the same ads we're doing are not working. So you have to learn how to pivot. So some of the pivots that we're doing is we want to reach more people, but we can't educate 10,000 people one-on-one. So what we've done was we've understood what our people need, and we put them in different buckets. So we know it's going to be people that come in with no experience. They need a certain amount of information before they even start thinking about even trying to invest in real estate. Some of that's going to be financial literacy. Some of that's going to be understanding your credit, business credit, comp, setting up your LLC the right way. You need all that stuff before you even start thinking about buying a house. Do you have some other people who already have that stuff? Now they need to understand how to get these loans, how to manage money. Because if your ass can't manage $1,000, you're not going to be able to manage $100,000. Let's just be real.
Hell no. That's right.
But then there's the other people who've kind of been in it. They just need a few nuggets to level up. So we've broken all that stuff down. So within saying that, we're coming out with a membership program because everybody need different stuff. The membership's gonna be $29 a month. It's less than $1 a day. Listen, less than $1 a day
right.
for the membership.
Right, that's right.
But when you get in that membership, it's gonna be a networking opportunity because communities are gonna be key moving forward.
Yes.
Just like with Facebook and Instagram, I think you're gonna start to see more people gravitate to a community that fits their lifestyle or needs or whatever it might be. Ours is just going to construction development. So we're going to build out that community. Now within that community, you're going to be able to network with other contractors, other lenders, other potential partners, deals, but we're also going to add educational pieces to it. We'll give you some free courses, free weekly value, but we're also going to have courses for development, courses for new construction, courses fix and flip, courses for agents. So that's big picture with the school. For myself, I've actually taken a back seat in terms of what I normally build. In 2020, I did 43 houses. When we launched in 2022, I still did a lot of houses. Last year, I only did 5 houses last year because I've been so focused on the school.
Yes.
But I knew at some point, once it was at a certain level, I could go back to what got me here, and that's building houses and investing. So we're launching a fund called Vertical Capital because I feel like there are a lot of fake people out there fucking up people's money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who better to do it than me,
Absolutely.
man? I got the results.
Absolutely. That's
So
right.
we're launching the fund. We got a 14 home subdivision on the plate. We got some mansions on the plate. So we're going to, I got some partners. And the crazy thing about it is some of my partners in the fund are students that joined the coaching program back in 2022 that's built houses. So I realized I have a powerful community,
Yes.
so it's educating, but also setting up investment opportunities within the fund that people can invest in because it's going to be a certain amount of people that want to do it on their own, but it's going to be a certain amount of people that say, hey, they've already built something. I don't have the time. Let me invest in that.
Absolutely.
So that's big play.
Good deal. Good deal. All right, Gene. So how can people, which I don't think it's gonna be hard for them to find you anyway, but give the people your all your social handles, man. How do people reach out to you as people listen to this podcast? How do they connect with you online?
Gene, Gene _Johnson 1.
Yeah, right.
That's my Instagram. I got a partner, Kelly Parker.
Yep, that's right.
Kelley Parker, Instagram. We do a lot of stuff with Desi. We got a page together. That's Desi B Designs on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then we got the Building Builders Academy on Instagram and the Construction Kings. But those are some of probably the best ways, man. Just like, follow, comment. We got pop-ups on a monthly basis. We got memberships. We got boot camps. And we just have networking events. So y'all pull up. It's all about networking.
Yeah.
Your network is your net worth, man.
That's right.
I be seeing these posts. Would you rather have, $1 million or a million followers? And listen, the money is good to a certain extent, but your net worth.
Your net, it's truly.
And one thing I would say that I'm really learning over the last few years is that, and it just goes back to education. I could have been a lot further along if I was educated because OPM, other people's money.
Absolutely.
Like, it's mindset.
Yes.
It's not what you got in your pocket. It's what you got up here.
Yes.
And if you got the knowledge to build a house or renovate a house, fix a house, it's easy to find that money.
Yes.
Because people with money ain't got time.
Absolutely. That's right.
And my value proposition was, when I started, I got the time. So figure out how you can be of value to someone, the money gonna come.
That's right. That's right. Well, listen, brother, I appreciate you, man, for being on the Bootstrapped Millionaire podcast. Man, I mean, look, I knew this conversation was going to be intense and educational for a lot of people. I mean, I hope that if people take all of the nuggets that you provided tonight and really use it to enhance their own personal family situation, right? And certainly I hope people will follow you. You know, look, there are a lot of people already follow you anyway, so you know, they just more people follow you. But I just appreciate you, man, being on the show, and always, as we say to end the show, keep bootstrapping.
Yes, sir. Keep bootstrapping. Appreciate it, man.
All right, brother.
Absolutely.
Bye, man.